Good afternoon. This is Stephen Choate, Romans7.org, and we're marching forward. Ongoing quest to give podcasts every couple of weeks. Please look at all the podcasts we've done, over 70 of them, marching through the Old Testament and the New Testament. And as I learn, as I give praise Jesus and God for all the blessings I have, and then when we share it with you. Please look at our webpage, Romans7.org, and if you need any paralegal work, it's like a donation to Romans 7. We're here to help. It's all explained on our webpage. I want to thank you for letting me give my podcast, and I'll go ahead and get started. We're slipping into some intellectual, totally God wisdom, podcast right now. And this is on current events in the world. And the title of this is going to be Death versus Everlasting Life versus Children and the Poor Duty of Care. When we look at the current state of affairs in the world, and recently if we take a moment and look at this Taylor Swift multi-million-dollar marriage with her toy boyfriend in New York City, spent millions of dollars on her wedding, yet 20 miles away, Harlem, projects of the poor reside, and it screams insanity. Here's a lady who has millions and billions of dollars, and she does it to get all of her rich friends. And what should have been done is open invitation to everybody up and down these projects where the poor live, and then hand them all money as they come in instead of me. And if we look at the current war in Iran, epic fury, the first 100 hours, 850 missiles costing over $3 million apiece. $3.7 billion was spent in the first hour. So in our society today, governments spend money predominantly on war. Celebrities spend money on themselves, and then we look at celebrity homes, $3 to $30 million, or probably the greatest horror story is Joel Osteen, a preacher in Houston, $1 million net worth, living in $1 million home, and he's a minister and knows everything about the poor, and yet nothing about opening up his church to flood victims and helping the poor even today. So we get confused in what is reality. But if we look at the world religions for the last 2,000 years, and we'll start from looking at Buddha and his religion, that as a prophet that went from India to China and Japan, which encompassing over half the world. And if we looked at our United States and Canada and South America and Europe, we look at, which composes 1/3 of the world, we see that 2/3 of the world's population over the last 2,000 years, they have been told the eternal truths. So not only us, my audience here, celebrities, people who have a little bit of money, they know that these truths have been told to them worldwide. And if we look at Buddha, who was born in the 5th century before Christ, and if we look at his Buddha religion, 3 warnings from 3 death messengers. And in the book of Teachings of Buddha, he talks about the rich arriving at a place of punishment after their death. And the guardians of hell seize him or her by the arms at every point and bring him to this king called Yama, Y-A-M-A, the ruler of death. And each rich person that comes through he asked them, "Did you not see women, poor, children at the gates of the church? And you failed to act nobly in body, voice, minds. Verify it should be done to you." And the guardians of hell inflict the torture called the 5-point pinion, heated stakes, hand, foot, middle breast, does not die until the wickedness is exhausted. And the Christianity, we have that too in the teaching of Jesus. Luke 16, verse 19 to 31. Abraham with the poor beggar Lazarus in the bosom of Abraham, and the rich man who's now in Hades, hell, not in his blue robes. And the rich man asked Abraham to dip his finger in water and cool his tongue. And there again, Abraham says, "Did you not see the poor, the inflamed, the children at the gates of the church?" And all these people who are in position of having money in government and politicians and even people making good money, they all have, including myself, have a duty to the poor. And this idea of when you die and there's a second coming, and we've seen it with King Saul, the Old Testament, asking the medium at Endor for the vision of the upcoming battle, and the medium calling Samuel from the dead, and asking him that King Saul's here. He wants to know the outcome of the battle. So we see in the New Testament also, just like in Buddha, that the dead are there. They're quite alive and they're quite aware. And Jesus bringing Lazarus 4 days from dead and bring him back to life. And then we see Elijah bringing forth a child from the dead. So we see that you have a short time on earth, and that eternity can be definitely a very difficult thing. And when you die, if you have money and you haven't helped the poor, you see that the reversal of fortunes. The poor comfort now and the rich suffer. And the rich man's sin is not his wealth, but it's ignoring the poor at the gate of the church. Then after death, fate is fixed. So we see that people with all this money, they're not to be envied, in their $1 million homes and their cars and the jewelry and the fortune and the fame. God gave it to them. And God is sitting back and writing in the book of life, or in this case the book of death, the sins. According to Buddha, they'll bring out your 3 biggest sins and you'll be judged accordingly. So all wealth and property comes from God higher. Wealth has free choice, and God lets a person accumulate wealth to give him free choice to see what they're going to be doing with it. The marginal wealth, which is like me or you, a lot of us, God wants to see us volunteer at church, podcast, praising Jesus, the Son of God, help the poor whatever you can, and help even as a small gift to the poor, because it's all written in the book of life, and God is always watching. It's free choice, mind, body, and soul, what you do with it, not money itself. Now we all know that wealth is for the few, and the media dances with them and their excesses. What is reality? Is that God is real. He exists. And it's a fact, because if you look at the Voyager telescope satellite that was launched in the late 1970s, out at space at the speed of light, over 180,000 miles per hour, getting traction by flying over the magnetic force field of each planet as a slingshot, and it is still going into deep space, and it shows that the distance, even after 50 years, is still going through space and is beyond comprehension. So it's self-evident that God exists. But what is real is for all of us not to pay attention to what we do for our money and look about helping the poor, be faithful to our wives, love our children, and because we know that the short time we're here on earth, 70, 80 years, that we're being watched. And then the end result, if it's me, then we're going to meet Yada on the fivefold opinions, answering why neglected to see the children of the poor and not do anything. And we see that when we die, the reversals of fortunes, poor comforted, rich will be judged, and then we see that fate is fixed is when we die. So today we're alive. If we get this video as I give it, we have a chance to change our lives and have a place in eternity of Jesus and God. And that is what is important every day. When we get up, what can we do to do good in this world and praise Jesus? So this is my podcast. As always, thank you to my brother Bobby in Arizona and my good friend brother Bobby in Texas. And we march on and go forward. I see so many miracles that go on in my life, and I'm quite aware when they happen, and I know that God is there right by my side, make bulldozing this path I'm on, and give me these miracles that I can't figure out, even though I think I'm intelligent, but He shows me another blessing as I praise His Son Jesus. So I know where my miracles come from. I want to thank you very much, Stephen Choate. Please look at our webpage, and then I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.